said I'm supposed to be leading this class. Oh, now it's Dan.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
What's going on?
Good. Just running the 3D house of crazy here. Did you see I sent out the invite to everybody?
Is that a good thing?
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I am going to have to.
Do people sign up for it or just kind of log in if they remember to log in? Do we know how many people to expect, I guess is the main question.
And you know, I don't know. And sometimes we have people that say that doesn't work in my schedule, but I'm going to watch it later.
Okay.
The benefit of having this happening now is that they get to ask their questions and interact with you, which is the awesome part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And we have Nina.
Yeah, hi.
Awesome.
I've been waiting for this because I have a listing appointment tomorrow and I need your help.
Oh,
Okay.
great. What good timing.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I know you're talking about the 4 options that buyers have, and this particular, not buyer, sellers. And this particular seller has already met with a Redfin agent. So any kind of comments you can make in that direction might be helpful.
I just talked to somebody today. He's like, an agent called me and said they're gonna, their partner with an accent called me and then said I had to talk to Josh, and Josh is gonna call me because they're doing a 1% option for the listing, and they'll give me money back and they'll do all these things. And I haven't heard what they have to say yet. And I will tell you, because I didn't care if I got this appointment or not, I kind of laid into him a little bit, really aggressively, because the guy wasn't very motivated. It might be a waste of time in general to go over there, and I understand that. So I was like, well, let's see what happens if I get pretty direct with him on what the risks are with that and what he might want to watch for. And so I'll talk a little bit about that, or maybe since it's 1:00 now. But it's really just about how comfortable you are being direct, and usually saying something along the lines of, you get what you pay for. Has there ever been a time you thought you were saving money and it ended up costing you in the long run? This time's like that time.
Okay.
Wouldn't it make sense that for how long a 1% option's been around, that everybody would switch to that if it was the most effective way to get your home sold?
I like that. That's a good one.
Like, doing it for free is an option too, but we aren't going to do that. So you get what you pay for. And if you research that company's statistics and knowing that you're going up against Redfin, you might want to pull some stats on the MLS.
Okay.
Their average list to sale price, or how many price reductions they're doing. They'll net less money, no question. And the 1% is just the listing side. So We're talking about the difference between 3 and 1, not 6 and 1. Right. So pointing out some of those things and just talking about it is probably the best ammunition you'll have to understanding why, going with a full service agent will net them the full listing price, the full commission, or not, sorry, the full sale price that they deserve.
Sure.
Discount agent, discount sale price.
Yeah.
I won't know how to handle it. I usually tell people too, you're better off selling it on your own and saving the 1%, because then at least someone's trying to sell it.
Okay.
Right? Because you have a 1% agent, they aren't even going to return phone calls. They don't do any sort of proactive steps in order to get it sold. I've shown one of their listings 3 times and never even gotten a return call.
Oh, wow.
I have a couple questions. My client wants to write an offer and I don't get a return call. My client eventually loses interest. They move on to something else.
Right.
That's how it happens, right? So
yep. That's good to know.
I also just read that they don't work on commission, so there's no incentive for them to actually work for that 1% either.
Right.
Oh no, yeah, they're salaried at a very low salary. Something a regular agent who knows how to sell houses would never take. So they're order takers, which is again why you would just sell it yourself. Yeah. They make on average, they make like 30 or 35 grand salary. And then they get like a small portion of the commission, maybe like 0.1%, right? I know one of the Redfin agents who sold $1.5 million property and got a $1,200 bonus. So that would have been a $45,000 commission.
Wow.
right? So yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I mean, like that's a third of 1%.
Christy, I have made you the host for this so that you can share your screen and do it however you want to as a webinar.
Okay.
And it is automatically recording, which is awesome. All this wonderful content will be saved for even those who couldn't be here.
Okay. We'll hop into it. It's 1:04. I'm
Thank
Christy
you.
Kimbrel. Hey, Maureen. Nice to see you.
Hi.
We've got Paige and is it Yelena? Yelana? Okay. And then Amy
Jelena.
and
Jelena.
Jelena. Okay. I know a Yelena, so it's very similarly spelled. Okay. So thanks. Hopefully other people chime in and jump on. Feel free to kind of just interrupt me. I tend to talk really fast. And so if you want me to repeat something, I work on slowing down. So I'll try to take some pauses so somebody could at least get a word in edgewise, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to share my screen. The goal of this meeting is to talk about the client's options that they have in order to sell their property in a hot market. The biggest objection we get right now is, well, I would love to sell, you know, but I heard the market's high, but where am I going to go? And so I'll actually put this in the presentation mode. Presenter view. So I think, yeah. So that'll zoom it in a little better. And when they don't know where they're going to go, what are the options, and how do they sell their house first? Do they go shopping first and buy a house? You know, and so it's the chicken or the egg problem. And it's just about laying out their options and helping them understand that it's possible. And in any of these options, it's possible. This is just what it looks like. And so you're going to meet a variety of risk tolerant people and how risk tolerant they are, and being able to just lay it all out so that they can understand it and how it's going to work will help them get out of being stuck. That's the goal. Right now they're stuck. They just like, well, it just becomes overwhelming, and they just decide not to move because they don't have anywhere to go. And then that's where they leave it. So, all right, I'm gonna move this stuff away. So I start with this. So I have been having this conversation for years with people, and I usually just bring somebody along with my team. And then with having the agents in Florida, they said, well, do you have something that we could, you know, take or use? And so we finally created a presentation for it. So this is how to buy and sell at the same time, what it looks like. There's a little bit about our team. I go through a little bit of our mission, vision, and values. And you don't need to do that. The point is for you to articulate what people's options are. So the goal is to provide you with the options to successfully buy and sell at the same time at your comfort level. Fair enough? Any questions so far? Perfect. Okay. We go into my sheet. I sent this out at the last team meeting. I shared this. This is what we came up with as the pros and cons for each of the options.
Okay. Are you okay if I share this with everybody afterwards? I'll email out a link when we download this to our YouTube channel. I'll email out a link to that training and this PDF, if that's okay.
Yep. And oddly enough, we don't have the exceptional home team on it, so you can just use this one. Okay. So 4 ways to buy and sell in a hot market. So we start with conservative. This went through a lot of different renditions and variations to try to decide so that nobody felt bad in any one category, right? The conservative approach all the way up to the risk tolerant, right? In the hot market scenario. Least hassle, right? Low risk. These are all things like, I think when I first wrote it, it was like, you know, super risky, right? I mean, who really wants to have a lot of risk involved with anything they do? So the conservative approach is going to be first sell your current house, right? Get it completely sold, past inspection, even close it. That's the most conservative thing you can have happen, right? Sell, close, be done, be now a cash ready buyer, right? So it's sell your current house, rent, or go into some sort of temporary housing. And then that creates you as a ready buyer, right? So you being the client. The pros, you're going to have minimal financial risk, minimal financial exposure, right? Because you aren't going to be buying and owning another property at the same time. You're going to naturally get that top dollar for your house as long as you're with a great agent. That's how you slide that in there, Nina. You're going to get top dollar for your house, right? Because you don't have to quickly sell it or take a lower offer because you have this other house you want to go and buy. You're just ready to negotiate and figure out what the market will give you for your home. And then you're 100% ready to buy when the right house comes up. Okay, you don't have a contingency on the sale of your home. So the cons are going to be that you have to move twice, right? You're going to spend money on rent. That doesn't go towards anything, no equity, that's just a cost. And it can be hard to find a short-term rental or a flexible living situation.
Yeah.
You know, so those are harder to find. But if you want to go live with mom, or you have a friend or a cabin you want to go stay at and they have that solution, then that takes care of that. You do have to move twice. There's no avoiding that.
Right.
Okay. All right. Somebody have a question? I thought I heard something. Okay. So the next option is your least hassle, but most expensive, which is going to be buy with a contingent offer. So say that, okay, Christy, I'm not going to sell my house until we go find a place. So let's go shopping. We'll put an offer subject to me selling my home. And then once we find that place, I will list my home and we'll get it sold. But if my house doesn't sell, I'm not moving. One of those people, right? And there's nothing wrong with those people. That just in this market is very expensive and very difficult, right? The amount of sellers looking at contingent offers are going to be low. So when we roll into, you're going to essentially buy the property you want with a contingent offer, then you're going to list it, and then you're going to pray. You're going to pray that the timing works out. You're going to pray that you get your house sold and that nobody takes your dream home from you in the process. Okay. So the pros are you only move if the stars align. That is a benefit, right? You're not going to sell your house and have nowhere to go. You're going to have the right home for you picked out and under contract, right? There's no extra moves. You're going to move once. You're going to buy that house after this one closes, and you get to find the right home before committing to this process. Okay. The cons are you have the risk of losing the house you want to another buyer because just because you have a contingency doesn't mean that you get the home for sure. Somebody else can come along and make an offer that bumps yours, and you can then hopefully explain how that works. It's the most expensive because you're going to pay top dollar for that house because in order to get the seller that you're buying from to go on this maybe journey with you, the maybe move journey, they're going to want top dollar. They're not going to be willing to negotiate as much as they would be if you didn't have these contingencies. Okay. You also may then end up in the cost column aggressively pricing your house so it sells quickly, and or taking a lower offer so that you can lock all this up. Right? So you typically overpay on the house you buy by at least 5 to 10 grand, and you might take 5 to 10 grand less on your other house, which could cost you $10,000 to $20,000 net difference by trying to orchestrate the perfect storm. Okay. Any questions on that option? Super. Okay. Usually clients have questions, so you'll want to stop and ask. You guys don't, which is great. That means you're getting it. Low risk, low hassle, our third option. You're going to list the house.
Oh, wait. So what questions do they have on that second one? What kind of questions do buyers ask in there, or sellers?
What do they ask? They ask a lot of questions about what I said. Does that make sense? I repeat myself a lot. It's a lot of information. So I may have covered it, but then they're like, well, so what do you really mean? Like, how can they bump my offer? How long do I have? Right? They'll start asking some questions that you just have to be able to navigate that really aren't usually about clarity here, right? They
Right.
just get a little jumping through all the options, and everything's covered on this page.
Okay,
We'll go through it all. I can't
Sure.
think of, there isn't, they just ask basic questions.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. Low risk, low hassle. So you're going to list the home, and then, so we sell a lot of people on this. We can put it on the market, and because the sellers are in the driver's seat, it is possible for us to find a buyer that's willing to wait and give you time. Right? We could get a little bit longer closing date, i.e. I just did one a month ago that I got an end of October closing date. And multiple offers because these clients wanted, you know, they had to sell first. They weren't going to sell and go homeless. They were willing to, but they knew that they could find something that was available once they were sold and under contract, right? And then we got a 90-day closing so that they had time to go shopping. And then they knew at the end of 90 days, if they didn't find something, they were going to be doing the move twice.
Making sure you both received this. Question mark. I'll wait to hear back.
Kelly
from you.
Brown. Stop Siri messaging during our meeting.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Sorry, guys. Muting myself. Hi, everyone. Sorry.
Bye.
I'm out.
Okay, bye. Oh, that's so funny.
I do have a
It's not me,
question
right?
about
That happens to all of us. Okay, so
Christy,
yeah.
I do have a question about this
Yeah.
one. So in this situation where you might be able to get a 90-day closing date, then if the buyers are able to find something faster, do you try to move the closing date up?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. You do something like on or before October 30th.
Okay.
And then you just need to understand, and you do need to keep reminding your clients and the other people not to book anything. Like people really don't like this ambiguity, but buyers at the beginning will hop in and say yes. They'll say yes to anything to get the house. And so then it's a lot of, for the agent, it's a lot of micromanaging to make sure those buyers don't get attached to a date or start booking their movers for October 24th.
Gotcha.
They picked a date, right? Like there's a lot of like, make sure you don't go buy a car, make sure you don't book the movers, make sure you know, just a lot of this managing to make sure that people stay on. So I really don't recommend, it's the only time this is hard is when I've got somebody who won't close if they don't find something like that, where like I'll sell it to you, but I want an October, on or before October 24th move date. And if I don't find something, I want to be able to cancel. Right? Like if the seller really says they're not moving unless they find the right home, that's a little tougher sell. The buyers want to know that they're waiting on a sure thing, and they'll wait. But waiting on a maybe you go find something is a little tougher pill to swallow. So we do want to see if you can't convince the seller who wants to stay in this column to understand. You want to take them shopping, or at least look online so they know that the house they want exists. We're not looking for a needle in a haystack, right? That they're flexible people who would be willing to choose something that's available, or knowing that if that came to it, that they would be willing to then move twice if needed in order to wait for the right home, that we would give them plenty of time to try to do it all at the same time. And if not, then they'll be into column 1, which is move twice, right? So, so we want to, so the pros are then that you, again, are sure of where you're going, right? So this could limit the buyers willing to wait for a maybe move, as I just covered. And then do you cancel if the right property doesn't come up? I put that in there so that you make sure to ask it for the client.
Oh, I'm so tired.
Okay, I muted them. Do you cancel? Are you going to cancel if the right property doesn't come up? You know, understanding that ahead of time so you know what you're getting into as well. You really want to make sure that we understand if this is all possible. So, and that might look like taking them out shopping, even though you know they're not a ready buyer. So let's go see some and make sure that you like what's out there, and we'll go from there. Okay. So risk tolerant, and this works really well in a hot market, which is buying non-contingent. So going shopping now, first of all, you have to make sure they qualify with their lender for this. So that's an asterisk there. So make sure they talk it to their lender and that they qualify to buy without selling. And it's really buy without closing on their house first, because they will likely sell during this process. So this one here, hold on, I think I get a pointer. You guys want to see my pointer? So look at that. Woohoo! Okay, so this one here is the inverse of this one here, right? So we're going to end up going and buying, and we're saying, I don't need to sell. It's not contingent on the sale of my home, but then we're going to have the house ready to put on the market. So once they buy, they're under contract, we're going to do, then we're going to list their house to sell. So we'll do it really quickly. So first, the pro is you're going to get to find the right property. You'll get the best deal on the buy and the sell, because you're essentially a cash buyer here, and hopefully you're comfortable with the amount of timeline to get top dollar for your home. It also ensures that you find the right home, and you typically only have to move once with this plan, right? Because you'll just move into the new home, into your dream home, or whatever it was your next step. Cons is you could have 2 payments, right? The worst case scenario is you may end up owning 2 homes at the same time. That happens at the 4-month mark. See the timeline for the example. So this is, from a realtor sales perspective, this is our favorite, because once they go buy, are they definitely selling?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They have to sell that house. So you have 2 guaranteed deals if you can get them in this column. Other ones all have a maybe attached to it. This one, you'll for sure get a listing, but if they don't get their right price, they might cancel or decide they don't want to do it. Usually if they sell, they end up buying. Making sure they stay with you and happy through the whole process is another piece with this. But otherwise, this is the for sure from your income standpoint. Okay.
Is that where people use bridge loans, Christy? And,
Yep.
and what are your thoughts on that?
Yep, so we're gonna go into, let's see, this is the presentation. So in my thing, I explain this and we flip it over and go to the other one. The presentation breaks them all down. Like this is one slide for each option that I just did with you while we were looking at the whole thing in the columns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's just broken up. So here's the timeline when I say see the example. So you could flip this over or go to page 2. And here's the example of how this works. So the example says today is June 15th. This is what I used to practice with my agents, being able to explain this. So first you're going to write the offer, right? We're going to find the dream home. You're a cash buyer. You maybe have a bridge loan or a HELOC. You'll hear a home equity line of credit, a swing loan. Those are all the same things for borrowing your money from your equity of your current home first and then using it to go buy the second home, okay? So we have a bridge loan set up in case we need it. We go make an offer. We're excited. It's all done. Perfect. Executed contract. We write that offer with a 60-day close. Usually that works just fine, right? 45 is common. I don't usually have a problem pushing to 60 days. So let's say we're going to write an offer that closes August 15th. You following me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Now it's important, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you know that when you close on August 15th, your first payment isn't due until October 1? Right? If they close here, their first payment isn't due until the following first of the month. So that means, Mr. Seller, we could go ahead and put your house on the market within a couple days. And then we have 1, 2, 3 full months to get your property sold. We have 90 days and still have 30 days to close it before you would ever hit a double payment.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're sitting with them in May or April and talking about potentially not like going on this journey, being able to pick it all out, buy the house they want, and then go sell theirs, and we just have to close it by October, and our average days on market in almost every category, let's agree, is 30 days or less.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't seem that risky to them all of a sudden. but very few clients want to sign up to own 2 properties. That's the only thing they learned in the last recession or from their parents is like, you never own 2 properties. It's the opposite of the job market. Don't quit one till you have another. Houses are the opposite. You're going to quit one completely and then you're going to find another because you don't need 2. Okay. So these questions here, is your micro market, meaning that like what you pulled comps from, right? Is that averaging 90 days or less for sales? Yes. Are you willing to price it at the current market value? Can we look at what we think if you're there and it's priced at, we think we could maybe get $350 for it because the market's so hot, but like all day long it's $325, no problem. And when you showed up that day, the sellers were excited for anything over $3. They're in all day long on this plan because they're happy whether it gets top dollar or $325. It was more than they thought to start with. They're like, yeah. So I always do a best case and a worst case scenario. And if they're okay with that, I'm going to say we're going to put it on at $350. And if we don't sell it each couple of weeks, we'll do a small price reduction. And we can clearly see here that there's no way it's not at least $325. So are you okay with that as a plan? Yes. Right? This is the most fun. Right? This gets them shopping tomorrow, ready to buy something. So they do like this as long as we can make this risk understandable and manageable. They really like this one. I would say I'm going to say 80% of my clients choose to do it this way if they qualify. Otherwise, we're on option number 3, which is list the home and ask for a little longer closing date and then go shopping.
Mhm.
Wendy, will you be sending out all of these pages to us?
I will send out whatever Miss Christy decides she's willing to share with you.
Yes, I will send
So
it.
this page and the other one are a PDF that she had sent out before and that I know she is willing to share.
Okay, perfect. That's all I need.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you can update these dates. You can, I used to do this on the back of a sheet of paper with the dots and circles, and I just wrote the timeline of what's going to happen here and here. And this is what I described. And then my team said, well, we want that. So here it is. Right.
It's a really powerful visual. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to explain this in person. You do need to sit down with them. They have questions. They want to know like, well, so can somebody take the house from us if we buy it? Or, you know, what happens if we sell our house and we don't need that loan after all? Great. We just don't take it. Those home equity lines so I use the word home equity line of credit, which is like the acronym for HELOC, home equity line of credit. So you'll hear HELOC, you'll hear home equity line of credit, swing loan, and bridge loan. Those are all the same things from different genres of the mortgage industry in different times of when they were talking about them. They all still exist. Some people thought they went away. This is the cheapest way to get money. So this is going to be an appraisal fee and nominal fees to it, like charges by the bank. So you're going to talk about, I'm going to say $900 or less in closing costs to take out that loan. The appraisal being the largest chunk of it. Okay, for $400 or $500 is the appraisal, and then there's about $300 in fees. So that's the cheapest way, and then you line that up in case you need it, right? Because we need to actually have this home closed by August 15th, or we need that bridge loan, or swing loan, or HELOC, right? And so if we list the current house here, it's still quite likely if we sell in the first 30 days, we won't need it. They're going to have their cake and eat it too. And then we will target an August 15th closing with any offer that comes in. Or, you know what, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, wouldn't it be nice if we did like August 20th and you had 4 or 5 days to properly move in, get time to get the houses clean, get time to repaint or do any sort of personalization you want without having to do everything on one day. In which case then they would still take out that loan because they'll need it in order to close first so they can own it ahead of time. And then if they're really frugal and analytical, you're going to want to help them point out that, and those 5 days will cost you the $900 of closing costs, right? If you're talking to a high C, they'll ask a lot of questions about the dates and times and percentages and odds and statistics and number of days on market and those kind of things. You'll want to, whenever you're talking to a high C, talk that language and get ahead of it so that they know that you're thinking. And so you'll want to point out that there's still costs there. You don't want to realtor round on them and say like, yeah, and then it's like having a place to live for 5 days for free. Well, no, that money still costs money to borrow it. So the most cost-effective thing to do is to not take out the loan and close all on the same day from a dollar perspective. But from a stress perspective, that adds a whole new layer to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Question?
Good point.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you find that in this market, since even though the market is hot and houses are selling quickly, to take this kind of a risk when people are scared of losing their jobs, is that factoring into the decision making?
I think the fear of losing their jobs comes before this conversation. If they're worried about losing their jobs, they're probably a little worried about moving in general, or they're in over their heads at their house and they probably should be moving. If they're real concerned about becoming unemployed and maybe not being able to handle the hefty mortgage payment they have,
Okay.
then maybe we could reposition them. I don't typically meet with anybody who's looking to downsize because of financial risk exposure. They just aren't that smart.
Okay.
Like, or that honest with themselves. Like, I wish they would be, because there's probably a lot of people that could be proactive right now that would be too embarrassed to have that conversation or admit it to their family that probably needs to happen, and they'll ride it right into the ground.
Right.
Okay. And the other question I had was, when you have this kind of a timeline, would you kind of try to push them into the direction of wanting to do professional staging just so the house sells quicker?
That depends what it looks like. I guess I push them into, I try to choose my words carefully. So I'm not trying to correct yours, I'm trying to use mine. So I try to help them get the most money for their house always,
Right.
by encouraging staging if it's needed.
Okay.
Right? Like, that would be whether they're doing any variation, we're always wanting to get top dollar. So if they're going to move out and leave it empty though,
Right.
then yes, if in this process they know for sure, like I've met people where money's no object and they just want to go buy something, completely move out, not be hassled with selling their home and showings and those kind of things. And so they want to do it in that order. That's fine. Then yes, we're talking about staging and putting furniture back in if they're going to be vacating.
Okay.
Yeah. Anytime I have a vacant house, I'm going to talk about the value of staging.
Great question.
Yep, good questions. Any more? See, I go really fast. I can do an hour presentation,
Great.
about 30 minutes on these things.
Awesome. So when you get to this point, do they decide, yep, now I think we know which path we want to go?
Yeah,
And-
so, yep, I just go back to this and, okay, now which do you think fits you guys the best? And usually by the time we're there, they've asked enough, it's a fluid conversation, right? They're asking questions, they're jumping around, and then we can go back and kind of look at it. And usually the conversation has alluded to the route that's best. And if not, you could take them back here and they usually pick right away, and they usually stay in these two sections here. I never have somebody do this. I shouldn't say never, but it's pretty, like they don't want to go move twice, like committing to move twice no matter what. And they aren't that risk averse that they can't deal with a little bit of, they just buy subject to that home closing, right? A successful closing. And if something happens, they're not moving, and that's a bummer, but they're not homeless. They don't move out completely.
Right.
So.
That's great. Well, thank you, Christy. This has been
Yeah.
super informative, really so valuable. If anybody else have any other questions? Is this the presentation you're basically using now when you meet with sellers?
No, I'm still, this is mostly my sphere, probably when I've met with them or sold them the house before, where they're calling and saying, you know, hey, we think we want to move, but we're not sure how to do it. Like, will you come out and talk to us? Or what do you think of the market? Like, I can come out and explain how this will work. 90% of the time, this is my current past client.
Got it.
They already trust me. They know they want to hire me. They want to move if they can. I'm still doing my traditional listing presentation on what we do to get your home sold for top dollar on almost all my meetings. And I know going into it if I'm going to help explain the market.
Christy, so I have watched your regular listing presentation multiple times, and I've made my own PowerPoint based on your points that you make. If, like this one I'm doing tomorrow, I don't know these people. I just met them at an open house. I know that they need to sell and I know they want to buy. And this is perfect because I don't know how they're going to handle the transition between the two. So where in your listing presentation do you put this information?
I don't. It honestly usually comes up as a topic, or that's why we made the separate PDFs for it. So I'm not doing this. This presentation is for my workshops online when people sign up.
Okay.
Because I'm talking about this so much, we made it into a workshop. So we created a presentation.
Okay.
I would put this PDF in your folder or on your slides that you could go to when they start talking about that. And I would just naturally put it in the conversation where they bring it in. I would stick with how you're going to sell it for the most money. And maybe if you know that's a concern, once you round out, like, so based on what you've heard so far, do you feel that I'm the right person, or that I could get your help, that I could get your home sold? And if they say yes, great. Am I the right person for the job? And they say, well, we think so. Hey, what other questions do you have about the process that I can answer for you? And they might say, I don't know. We don't really have any, we have to think about it. Then I would say, well, I pride myself on answering questions that people don't even know to ask. So would it be okay, or would you like me to explain how we buy and sell at the same time?
Okay.
And then I would bring it up, because maybe they just are in one lane right now thinking about listing and not sure. Even that they haven't even mentally got there. So then you could bring it up yourself, and I would bring it up with some sort of intro of, I like to make sure that I'm answering all the questions, even those that are not asked. And here's what a lot of my clients are having questions about. Would you like to talk about this? And they may say, no, we'll have you come back out if we decide to work with you. Or the neat thing about this, you guys, is no one else is having this conversation, and nobody else has it even in a formal presentation or a handout. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's
And
great.
so you'll separate yourselves in general at an appointment if you can lead with this much information and knowledge to be able to navigate the entire process, not just give a sales pitch.
Right. Yeah, no, this is great. It's absolutely great.
This is gold. Well, thank you so much. Anybody else have any last minute questions they want to weigh in with?
No, I was just going to say thank you.
Yes. Yeah, you guys are welcome. I'm always here. If you have questions, just let me know. I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks again, Christy.
Nina,
And
good luck
Nina,
at
let
your
us know how your appointment goes
Yeah.
when
Good
you
luck.
get it.
Yay,
Awesome. All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.